Okay, Steve, here we go. This is to try to figure out what the midday draw today is. A couple things that I look at is down here at the pairs and the pairs up here. I try to decide, or I look and see which pair or which number is up here that's not down here. So one of them numbers up here that's not down here is the one. So I'll keep track of that one. I generally write it down on a piece of paper, but the 1 and the 7, 1, 7, and the 5 are the three numbers. 1, 7, 5, and 3 actually are the four numbers that are different, that are not between these. So 1, 7, the 1, 7, 3, and 5. So I keep track of them numbers. I go over here to my skips and I can see the 1, 7, and the 3, but the 5 is not there. Uh, Generally, you'll have two hotter numbers. So two of these numbers or two of these numbers will generally be in your group of numbers because these pairs are hot. These pairs right here and these pairs right here, one of the two columns, if not both of them, will have the winning pair in it. The next thing I look at is this number here, this one, and this one. This number, the first one, seems to hit a lot. So whenever it comes to figuring up my numbers, so to me, when I look at this, my power number is going to be a 4. So when I look at the numbers that are missing up here, I know I have a 1, 7, 3, and 5. And then I'm going to put them with a 4. So I'll come up with my group of numbers. This don't need to be here. Let's eliminate. Oops, shit. Sorry. Excuse me. We'll eliminate them. They don't need to be here. So basically, I'm going to make up pairs. I'm going to make up the 174. I'll go down and make the 134. And then I'll go make the 154. So basically, them are the three numbers that I would have considered playing. But I also I check this with another way of playing because it can be these are actually a few more 7, 3, 4, 7, 5, 4, and then 3, 5, 4. So, but the next thing I look at, I haven't incorporated it into this sheet yet. This is the one that you put together for me. I've got it over here in my open office. I keep track of my numbers, which is the Pick 3 reference box, which basically is the same thing that this one is the the Pick 3 reference box, which is that's the old reference box. This is the new one, so you can check your formulas or whatever to make sure everything was working good. So this is the reference box part of it. What I do in open office, I just threw some numbers up here. What I was trying to do is kind of like and this was based on something that I heard or seen RL talk about on Lottery Post just a few days back. These are basically, I want to say rogue numbers, but I decided to give 0. I'm basing these on V-track numbers. These are all the V-tracks. So a 0 is going to be a 1 or a 2 V-track. A 1 is going to be a 3 or a 4 V-track. And a 5 is going to stand on its own as a V-track. So when I put in these numbers over here, when I put in this group of numbers, these numbers automatically generate. based on this. You can see the formula up there that I used. So this over here is what my selection was. I made this last night before the midday draw today. So my selection was the 0, 1, 2. These numbers over here are numbers that have not hit in the last 10 draws. There's been a few of them that have come off just over the weekend, basically, that come off of this list that was here. Some of them that have hit. As they hit, I eliminate them. So today's number was 174. So there's a couple things that I was looking at on here. I tried to decide which one of these are due to hit, basically, in these columns right here. So my first choice over here, I was looking at kind of the patterns, and I'm saying a 0 was due. Over here, I was looking at the patterns. You can see where a couple back-to-back zeros, and then a 1 followed, and then a 0 and a 1. I got 3 zeros in a row, so I put a 1 there, and then a 2, which I put over here as being probably the most due in this column after a whole bunch of zeros. But you can see a couple zeros and then a 2 followed. So I made the 0, 1, 2, and I look over here and I can see it on my list. So it's not hit in the last 10 draws. So that's a good number to choose from. Because in the first position, I've got a lot of zeros that have not hit. In the second position, I've got quite a few 1s that have not hit. And then in the third position, I've got quite a few 2s that have not hit. So I feel pretty good about that number. So when I go to update my numbers for today, I put in, let's see, 174 was the winner. And I can look over here and I can see that my 0, 1, 2 is exactly what come up. I done this last night. So my choice last night for today's midday draw was good. Now, with that being said, I look at the numbers for each one. The 0, which is groups 1 and 2. So it's a 0, 5, 1, and 6. Them are the only numbers that I want to look at in the first position. And then over here in the second position, the only numbers I want to look at are in group 1, which is the third and fourth group. So it's 2, 7, 3, and 8. And then in the last position, 5, there's only 2 numbers, which is the 4 and the 9. So whenever I go back over here to this sheet here, I want to look at numbers that I can see that I wanted to play this 4 as my power number. So whenever I play this 4 as my power number, when I look over here, I know I want that 4 in the last position only. So I know that my 4 is in the last position. That's good. The next one is, out of these numbers right here, the 1, 7, 1, 7, 3, 5, I go back over here and I can see the 1 or the 7 and the 3 are in the second position over here. So I don't want a 1 over here, I know that. So when I go back over to this sheet, I know that my 7 and my 3 are probably going to be the numbers that mean more to me based on my other decision. So basically these 2 numbers and that number so far are the ones that I want. The numbers that are missing from that group is the 1, because if I look back over here, the only number in that first position that's missing is the 1. So in that particular case, I would have played them 2 numbers only for today's draw. And lo and behold, like I said, it was 174. But I kind of look at these skips. If you pay attention to this particular group down here, this number or this number seem to hit a lot. They will be in your group of numbers that are drawn. It doesn't happen every time. This being one of the numbers probably happens 6 or 7 out of 10 times. But these groups down here, when you look at these particular pairs, you can see that I had the 1 and the 4, and 4 being my power number, I would have only wanted to play the ones with the 4s in it. And then over here, basically the same thing. I only want to play the ones with the 4s in it. So the 3-4 looked good, the 4-7 looked good. I didn't much care for these because the 2-0 and the 6 is not in my little list right up here, so I wouldn't have worried about them. And then over here, basically the same thing. The 0 was not in there, so I would have eliminated that one. The 5 was there, so I would have chose that one, as like I did right over there, the 5-4 pair. But that's basically what I'm doing, is just paying attention to which numbers are hot. And I've seen this particular number, I can't highlight just them 3, but these 3 numbers right here I've seen hit quite a bit in a lot of the draws. So eliminate 5 or 10 draws and add them one at a time, and pay attention to these few numbers and pay attention to what's missing up here versus the ones that are right down here. And like I said, you can see which ones are missing. So them are the ones that I concentrate on. And then, like I said, I generally will use that one as my power number because it seems to be the strongest power number. In these skips, you can also see that the 4 is one of the most common skipped numbers. And the 9 is also a common skipped number. But the 9 is not up here, and the 9 is not down here. So because of that, and the 4 is right here, even though it's in this skip RB, the 4 right here is also up here and also down here. So that tends to tell me more often than not that number 4 is going to be in my games to play. So if I go over here and load up my draw, put in 174, everything should be updated. I go over here, of course I'm going to click save as it is updated. So now I'm going to look strongly at the 6s to see if a 6 is going to be strong or not. But then I'm going to look at these 3 numbers right here. So let me look here real quick. One of the other things, in order to decide what I want to play tonight, I need to update this, because I know I'm not going to play the same exact set. I'm going to look at this and see which number I decide to go with. And I can see where zeros, I need to eliminate that one because that one just hit. So it's either going to probably be a 0 or a 1 in this first position. And I can see where zeros tend to like to run back to back. And I have a 1-0, but the next number is actually a 2 right here. So I'm going to say my first number is actually going to be a 2. I've only got 3 groups that are 10 draws out. This second group right here, I'm probably going to choose a 0 as my number that I want to put in there. Even though it's no longer down here, I like the 0 being hot right there. And then in the last position, I'm going to put a 1, just because whenever I've had, the 0, 2, 1, and then it's coming back, or the 0, 0, 2, the next thing that follows is the 1. So I'm going to put a 201 right up there. So my numbers to follow that is the second group, which is a 4 or a 9. This group here is 0, so it's a 1 or a 2. So that's a 0, 5, 1, and 6. And then over here in the last position was a 1, so that's groups 3 and 4. So that's 2, 7, 3, and 8. So once I look at that, then I go back over to the other side and see what I can match up as far as why them look good. I don't always get that right. The 201, up here, I don't always get that right. But I get pretty daggone close. When I do seem to miss it, I still get the number, but it's not in a straight form. It's in a boxed form. But in my first position over here, I'm looking for a 4 or a 9. So I try to make myself believe that I'm going to get a 4 or a 9 in the first position. And, one of my numbers that I would put in my string is definitely a 4. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the 9 in there just because it's one of them that's up here that's not down here. So I got a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm missing the 7 and the 8. I still like the 7, so I think the 7 is going to be a comeback number. And then tonight, it's going to be one of these, a 6 or a 2 is my belief. So I'm going to say 497. I'll put a 6, and then my power number is going to be a 2. So then I'm going to make pairs out of these numbers, So I'll put a 492. And one thing, once I get done doing this, I do go back up here and see if I can make sense of any of these numbers. 472, I'll go up here and look. It doesn't look like in my RBs. 742. See 9. I don't see any 9s over here. And I only see 1 9 over here. So I don't necessarily like the 7 or the 492 because I can't make it in my RBs. These don't always work or always come true, but 472, I think I had that in one of them. 742, so I did have that. 472. The next one would be 462. So I don't necessarily like the 462. I've got it right up here too, but 642, so I don't necessarily like that, but it is one of the numbers. However, then it'd be 972. The next one would be 762. Oops, 762. But over here, let me look at that. 4 or a 9. So I don't want the bottom two numbers. I think the 4 is probably going to be a first number. And then in the second column, 0, 5, 1, or a 6. So I think that 462 is going to be probably the most prominent number to come up. But let me see, did I have a 2 in the last position? Yes, I did. So the 462, I would probably play that one number fairly heavy tonight. I'd probably play it 1 time as a combo and maybe 4 times as a boxed. And if that particular number comes up in any order, the combo is going to pay me $500. And then if it comes up in any order as a boxed, that's 80 times 4, so that's 320. It'd be, $820 that I could win if that particular number comes up tonight. That would be the only number that I would actually consider playing, because that covers my 2 here, that covers my 6 down here. And then I still like the number that came up today was the 174. A lot of times the last 2 numbers, the 7 and the 4, they simply shift to the left 1 or 2 positions. So even though the 4 in the 462 shifted from the last place to the first place, so it shifted over 2 positions. This one here couldn't go over 2 positions. So my 4 is probably going to be my 4 is going to be my dominant number. I believe that's going to be the one that I chose. But again, over here, out of this, my 462 is there. And it was also over here somewhere. See, where was it at? 462. I thought I seen a 462 up here somewhere. I don't know where I seen it. Maybe I didn't see it. Oh, I didn't like it because all 3 of them were right there. But according to my workout, so let me see. 62, 42. So, yeah, I'm going to have to stick to my gun. I'm going to say that 2 is definitely going to be in there. And I like that 6. But you watch, it'll end up being a 3. Just because that's the way my luck is. I try to explain something and then it don't come out quite right. But hopefully that's makes a little bit of sense to you. But like I said, doing this right here and giving them just these values seems to help a little bit. So even if I was to put them values over here in the wheeling engine in position over here, 0516, 0516, and what was the last ones? 2738. So 273 and 8. I'm going to exclude doubles and exclude triples, create numbers. I got 32 numbers. And of course my 462. In a case like this, I would only play the numbers that was going to be my power number. So I'd only play numbers over here that actually have a 2 in it. So I'd play the 402, 412, what is that, 452? It's a blur to me. I can't really see it. My eyes ain't focusing. 462, the 902, which I don't really care for the 9, the 112, 952, and 962. So because I think the 2 is going to be my power number, that would be the numbers that I played. But 462 was in that group. So generally you'll see a lot of that. Like I said, you'll see the numbers that are missing here should be your numbers here. And you'll always get one of the numbers will come out of this group right over here. Sometimes all 3 of them come out of this group over here, but that basically is cold numbers only, I believe. Because in your groups here, you got the 6 hottest numbers versus the last 4 coldest numbers in each one of these positions. So in this particular case, the 2 and the 6, even though they're not in the right positions over here, that's okay. That doesn't bother me. So, but that's kind of how I do it. I mean, I just pay attention to what numbers fall where, and I see that this particular 3 positions here, that number will come out a lot, and this number will come out a lot. So I just kind of base it on that, and then base it on my choice right up here as to what numbers it is. So watch tonight's draw for these numbers in these particular positions for straight draw only. It can come up in an opposite direction, obviously, for a boxed win, but I would play the 462 as my combo number. That way, if it comes up, I win 500. The rest of them I'll just play in boxed form. Spend $10 or $20. If it comes up, it comes up. If not, then I will try again another day. So hopefully that helps on how you can pick your numbers. Another thing is too, generally you'll only have 2 of your numbers here come up with 1 number that's missing. So the 462, it's in here, but if you watch these, it's actually due to come out of the top six hot, the six hottest numbers. The winning number is due to come up out of the six hottest numbers. So that's why I don't have a problem with the 462, because if you look at the past draws, only two numbers and then one that's out more is generally what hits. So anyway, I don't know if that helps or not, but I'll download this, send you the link, and play with that just a little bit. But like I said, RL mentioned something maybe a week ago, and I'm not even sure, Monday or Tuesday or something of last week, and he was saying something about only using just a few digits for the daily games. So I just decided to do this part, like I said, but I've got this based on the VTRAX. So, and that's how I come up with these numbers here to play the VTRAX, which gives you more combos over here to kind of look at. So anyway, there you go. Hopefully it'll do you some good. If you come up with any better ideas, certainly let